Chris, very nice to have you here. Thank you for giving me some time to have a conversation with you. So, how are you?
Yes, Antonio. Thanks, Antonio, for inviting me onto the podcast today. I appreciate it, and yeah, I know I'm doing well back in Florida from college, and yeah, excited to be back with my family, training back in Florida. So everything's going well.
Okay, awesome. Chris, today I want to go on a journey with you, and it's the journey from when you started to play tennis until today, how things are going today. Okay, so my first
Yep.
question for you is going to be, how did you start to play tennis, and why tennis and not soccer or ski or something else? Just tell me a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it actually wasn't tennis originally for me. I grew up in Toronto, lived there till 14. So when I actually started, my introduction to sports was actually through skiing. So I started skiing basically at 2 years old, going down the slopes with my dad. And I got into tennis around 5 years old. We would be up at the cottage on the weekends, and I'd watch my parents play tennis, and I thought, man, I would always sit on the bleachers and just watch the ball go back and forth. My mom wasn't hitting too fast, but I just enjoyed watching the ball. Like I just stared at it, and that kind of got me into tennis. Just my dad, on the weekends, just throwing the ball around to me like at 5, and yeah, I started taking lessons at around 5, and actually, it was a funny story because when I started at 5, I had to do the group lessons with other kids, and they made me play with the orange balls, the sponge balls. And after like a week, because with when I was playing with my dad, we would play with the orange balls, the regular like a green dot kind of thing. And I told my parents and my coach, I said, if we're playing with this, it's not real tennis, so I don't want to play. And they told me, oh, you actually have to play with these sponge balls. So I told my parents and my coach, and I said, I don't want to play if this is how we're going to play. So I actually didn't, I quit like at 5 years old for 2 years. And then I got back into it at like 7.
Oh,
And that's kind
really?
of when I
So you
started.
were
Yeah.
you were drastic
Yeah.
about that. You quit tennis with 5. I've never
Yeah.
never heard that.
It's funny. Yeah. It just that's the that I like was, I don't know, was pretty assertive in that. And yeah, I started again at 7. Like I started to watch tennis a lot at that time, and I started to understand it more. I mean, and then yeah, just my I would go play at the club all the time, and then I really got into it. And yeah, by the time I was 11, I had to choose between tennis and skiing. And at that time I started to become really good in tennis, and like it was a little bit hard to do the skiing in Canada, like just with everything the way it was set up there. I would have probably had to move away, and I decided to pick tennis, and that's kind of, it was a tough decision, but that's where it led me today.
Okay, awesome, awesome. But you know what you were telling before about the softball and the yellow ball? I've seen that before. Kids, when they watch TV and they see the guys playing with the real ball, that's what they want
Yeah.
to do. No, they want to play with the real ball,
Yeah.
not with a second choice. No, the first choice.
Yeah. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's not real tennis,
Yeah,
so I don't know, that's the way it
awesome.
happens.
Awesome. And well, you mentioned that a little bit already, but I wanted to ask you anyway. w- Um, what was the role of your parents on your tennis when you started, or until now? Because I mean, I've been around a while, and I understand that parents have an active role on the kids uh, playing tennis. No, it's not that is somebody has to drive them there, and even sometimes the parents take a very active role, like in coaching as well. What was your experience with your parents?
Yeah, I mean, my dad was really like the driving force when I was young. Like he was the one who, spent the hours with me. Like we would go before school in the morning, and on the weekends we'd be training, like, up until I got to around 14, 15. And there were some other people who kind of like drove the ship a little bit more. But yeah, I mean, he really was like key for my development growing up. Like he learned a lot from really good coaches like Bob Brett, some really good Tennis Canada coaches when I was growing up, and kind of like just he would reiterate it with me, you know, when we were on the court. And he would, you know, at the time I wasn't traveling a lot for tournaments until I kind of got to Florida. I would go to Tennis Canada for European trips, but he was always there with me on the weekends at national tournaments, and kind of supporting me and coaching me and warming me up in the morning, you know, driving me to tournaments, like, you know, like most parents do. And I felt he was really like instrumental in kind of like pushing me and getting me to like where I am now.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Yeah, there's always a family member involved in this, making it possible for us or for the kid or for the player to really be engaged.
Yeah.
And another question that I always ask kids is, what was your learning style when you play tennis? Did you learn tennis more? And I'll give you a few options so you understand my question where I'm going to. On a technical way, like learning the technical basics, or you just playing the game and learning by doing strategically, or was it a mindset thing, a philosophy, or what was your style? What was your experience?
Yeah, I mean, growing up, I was actually, from when I started playing, basically, I had like a really, really good coaches, you know, like they were very, like Bob Brett was really instrumental in teaching me the basics. I mean, when I started growing up, it wasn't really about, like, a lot of kids, I think they grow up hitting a lot of balls. For me, it was like, we really tried to build a sound foundation with my strokes and having proper technique, like learning proper footwork. It was really technical growing up. Once I got to around 12, 13, and I started like full time with Tennis Canada, then it became more about, you know, your shot selection, not as much like stroke production. It became more about, you know, being very consistent. It was a lot of consistency stuff, a lot of kind of moving the ball around. But when I really first started, it was very technical. Like that was the thing that all my coaches focused on, because they said, oh, you know, like the consistency and stuff, once you get your proper strokes, that was their method. That it was like, you can learn, you know, you'll gain that when you get older, stronger. But they felt at a young age, that's the time where you can really develop your fundamentals and your strokes and that muscle memory to be able to have the proper strokes.
Okay, I understand. I understand. Very nice. And did you have any role models growing up, like some tennis player that you admire, or another athlete could have been that inspired you to go there and grind and practice every day?
Actually, for me growing up, my idol was always Bodie Miller, ski racer, and I actually had the privilege to actually have a dinner with him through Head, and it was a amazing experience. So for skiing, he was even someone I really looked up to just as an athlete in general. I mean, the stuff he could do on the slopes was incredible with his body, his balance. And as far as a tennis player growing up, I really liked Federer. You know, I think I always tried to copy him a lot. You know, with the slice, with the volleys. Uh, I just thought he was such a like calm guy on the court, and he was such a good role model, like for someone to look up to. Like the guy did it all right. You know, there was mentally was so stable, like just so good from all areas of the court. And I felt like, you know, he was someone who I really looked up to as a kid growing up, and still, you know, today he's amazing. 38 years old, 39, playing amazing. So
Yeah, right, right. Nice. Um, just as a curiosity, do you still follow ski? Like you said, you started with ski. Do you still have like, when you have your role model was a ski racer? Do you still follow that sport like on TV, or do you still ski once in a while?
yeah. I mean, now I'm going to University of Utah, so I'm playing for the team there starting in January, and that's a really big skiing school, actually, the national champions. And I'll try and get up on the slopes there a lot. But yeah, as far as following it, I have a few friends actually who I know who are racing in college, and I actually know a few people who are on the World Cup still, and I keep in contact with them. And I try to follow it as much as I can, and no, it was a big part of my life, so I still keep those memories close.
Nice, nice. So that's something you can do, for example, on vacations when you're not playing tennis and practicing, you can go skiing, or is it too dangerous to go and do that?
We'll see. Maybe depends. I'll have to be careful, but right now it's the tennis is the important thing for me now. So
Yeah,
hopefully I'll get some opportunities to do it, but we'll see. We'll see.
yeah, yeah. And Chris, uh, on these years as you develop as a player, grow up, not only physically but also mentally, did you ever had a moment of insight in this period, like you say, oh, I understood something that I hadn't before, and it was right in front of my nose, but I couldn't see it? Did you ever have an experience like that? Like saying, oh, finally, I got it.
I think, yeah, I mean, there's so much in tennis you learn every day. Like, I'm not talking about, your strokes and the way you're playing, but just mentally, like, I would always put so much emphasis, I think, on tournaments and results, like when I was young, and now I look back, like I'm 18 now, I mean, I'm still fairly young. It depends how you look at it. And I would, like, there's a lot of things I'd look back and I would say, I would do this differently. I would, for example, worrying so much about which tournament I'm playing, who I'm practicing with. I would always worry about those things a lot. Like, I would be like, oh, I want to practice with the best guy all the time, or I don't want to go to this tournament because the guys aren't good. And now I look back, I mean, and it's silly when you think about, when you reflect and you see now, as I've gotten older, obviously more mature, and you think that all these things really didn't matter. And if you wouldn't have put emphasis on that in the past and made that such a big deal, you know, it could have maybe, put some result, it could have been in a different path, some directions, but uh those are kind of those things that you learn as you get older. And if I would go back in time, I wouldn't really put so much emphasis on those sorts of things.
Okay, okay. So what I hear is that you used to put emphasis also on the others.
Yeah.
Who are the others, and now you're putting more emphasis on yourself, on your probably on your practice, on the way you do things, and
Yeah, and I would worry about, what people would think, of me. I was really, really self-conscious, like I would always want everybody to think I'm good. I wanted everybody to like, I would worry at a tournament, like when I'm practicing, oh, like I have to practice well because I could play this guy, and all this kind of stuff. And if I'm looking bad, then he's gonna have confidence to beat me. And I would just worry. I think that now I don't really care. It's about me, and like I've learned that not everybody's gonna like you, and not everybody's gonna you know uh, be so obsessed with you, and that's okay. And I've learned that you can't please everybody, and I think I would worry a lot about what people thought of me. And that's something, if I could go back in time and I could change and I could talk to myself, a few years ago, I would say, man, just do what you think is right, and don't just try and please other people or do stuff because you think they'll accept you for this or that.
right, right. Very nice, very nice. Those insights, and this one you can answer if you want to. If you say no, it's too personal, we can move forward. But one question I ask everyone also is, what do you think is your biggest challenge right now?
I think right now it's just, it's a tough question because I think everybody has more than one big challenge in their life. But let's say if I had to pick one, I would go with having that mindset of, again, not worrying about what people think. And I think, that's something I was saying just now, but now come to think of it again, it's still something that I admit to, that I think about. And it's still something that bothers me today and affects me. Like, I still think, I say I don't care a lot, but still inside, that's something that I think I can still change that. And I can still do things more for me and what I believe is the best thing for me,
Mhm.
and I still fall victim to that, to worrying about uh, not just about people, but just worrying in general. I think being too concerned with what I did in the future, or what I'm going to do in the future, or the past. And I think it's, yeah, worrying as a whole. I think I can correct that, and just being yeah, too focused on the past or the present, instead of just thinking what I have to do today, and how I'm going to become better today and better myself as a human. I think
Okay.
sometimes, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, we hear that all the time, Chris, that the only thing we can really take care of is what is in front of us, and also that we have to take care of the things we can control, and not too much about the things we cannot control, because there are a few, I mean, many things that are out of our control, no? Especially when you play this game of tennis, no? You can control a couple of things, your effort, your focus, the way you strike the ball, more or less. But there are many things you cannot control, no? The way the opponent strikes the ball, or what he's thinking at that moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, we know that, and I think in a way it takes a while until you really settle there, and you do your job, and put the
Sure.
focus on what is in front of you.
Yeah.
Good, great. I have another question for you, and is, what do you dream about, and why? Do you have like a dream, something? I mean, I'll tell you. I asked you this because I had a dream when I was a kid. I dreamed with being a tennis player, being a good tennis player, and playing the tournaments, and being on those clay courts, running. That was my dream. Just wanted to play tennis and be a tennis player.
I have an interesting one, because it actually, I do dream about it in my real dreams. It's not just saying the word
Okay.
dream.
Wow.
And I always had this dream, and it happens a lot, is playing Australian Open. And for me, it's just, I don't know, it's something about this tournament that makes that I, even in practice, I'm like, man, like I want to work hard, because one day I want to play Australian Open. Like, a lot of people dream about Wimbledon, but for me, I mean, for me growing up, I never wanted to go to college. I wanted to just, it was all like pro, 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 pro. Unfortunately, like, I wasn't ready to play pro last year or this year, and I had to go to school, because, for me that was the right move for my tennis at that time. And hopefully it will be a good experience for me. I haven't really got to experience that college tennis yet, but yeah, I mean, for me, I always dreamed about playing pro. And the one tournament, like, for me, that I always dreamed about was playing Aussie Open, and like lifting the trophy at the Aussie Open. And I'd
Yeah.
love to, play a few years in college, and hopefully, after playing some professional tennis, I can get there, and that's what I'm still dreaming about.
Let's go. Let's go for that one. But let me just make a parenthesis. I think the option to go to college is a great option as well, and is an option, because you have choices.
Yeah,
You still could have said, "Oh, I'm gonna go pro." Maybe you said, "No, I'm not ready," but you could have. And
yeah,
you also had the choice to say, "I'm gonna go to college." and get an education. Uh, with a good level of tennis, you guys get scholarships. I think it's a great opportunity as well.
Yeah, I think that there's a lot of decisions in my life that I felt that I made the wrong decision, and I look back and I say, man, that's life. I could have, there was a few decisions in the last couple of years that I think really affected me mentally and hurt me, but you know, I felt now this was the right thing for me to do. And looking back, um, I really feel that a lot of kids should not like rule college out. And I think it's a really good springboard because you just learn so much. Like, and you have to be so independent. You can't just worry about tennis all day. Like, you have to do your school. You have to. You also become a leader because you can't just follow in the footsteps of everybody else. Like, if you're gonna just have that mindset, you're just gonna be another guy on the team. And if you want to be one of those top guys, you gotta set an example for everybody else on the team. And I think that it's a really good trait that you learn when you're in school and will set you in a good position in your life as well, not just tennis.
Yeah, because it's a life experience as well. And at the end, a tennis player is a human being. He has a role of being a
Yeah.
tennis player, but besides that, there's life. And I think if you go to college, you learn also a little bit more about life, no, having uh, um, a community, relationships with others,
Yeah.
and learning to interact with a coach, with your teammates, with other people, with other students. I think it's a very, very good school for life.
Hmm.
Um, then my last question, and I think this is also um, tough and interesting. It is also a double question.
Yeah.
What life lessons have you learned from tennis that you think you can use in other aspects of your life today and in the future? This is the one question. Okay, let's start with that one, and then I'll ask you the next one.
Okay. Firstly, I think the most important thing you learn in tennis is, being a, a judge of yourself, and also just you really learn about yourself, I think, in tennis, because it's like you see so many players, and when they're off the court, they're so different than on the court. And like it's a crazy thing because you just change when you're on the court. And I think you learn a lot about yourself playing tennis because there's a lot of like emotions that come out on the court that you never really see in your life. And there's just so much adversity you're dealing with when you're on the court because, like, man, you can't really confide to anybody. You can't just quit, like, if you're not feeling like it. There's so many times when I'm on the court and I'm just like, man, I just don't feel like it. Like, there's a billion places I'd rather be than on the tennis court. I just don't want to be there. I'd rather be in my bed sleeping or watching TV or whatever, or even working out. And I think that the thing that you learn the most is just about yourself. Like, you learn so much about the way the way you think about things, like how to problem solve. you know you learn about the mental side. Is just crazy in tennis because it's just you can bring it into your life, from the fact that you have to deal with so much adversity and you're the only one out there, like, and I think that's the thing, like, you learn in tennis. It's more than any other sport, in my opinion, that you're the only one out there. And you really, like, you're with yourself, you're with your
Yeah,
thoughts, you're with your body. And you just got to deal with whatever comes at you, and there's nobody to help you. It's just you.
yeah,
And I think that's the most amazing thing about tennis, is that a lot of people don't experience things like that, because if they're having an issue, they can always go and, you know talk to somebody about it or just say I'm having a bad day or whatever. In tennis, you gotta push through those feelings of tiredness, of being down 6-1, 3-0, and you just want to walk off the court and you feel humiliated, but you still gotta stay out there. Like stuff like that is just
Yeah.
it's really really special.
Yeah, tennis is peculiar in that sense because it's an individual sport, and also there's always a winner and a loser. There's no tie like other sports. Sometimes the clock ticks and it's over and it's 0-0 or 2-2 and you go home.
Yeah.
Here, you don't go home unless you finish. And when you finish, you either won or lost. Those are
Yeah.
the two options you have.
Hmm.
Yeah, great. And I might know the answer for this one, but I think I'm interested on knowing how old you say you are right now, Chris?
18.
18. What advice would you give to the Chris that was starting tennis with 7? Not the one that quit, or maybe to the one that quit. What would you say to him? What would you
Well,
what advice would you give
the
to
one that
the little
quit
Chris?
the one that quit is two of them because I actually stopped playing at the end of last year for a little bit as well. And I don't think many people know that, but yeah, I took like 3-4 months off at the end of the year because I fell out of love for the sport, and it was too much for me, like too much training from a young age, like in only doing tennis, and I got burnt out. And I had a lot of tough stuff that happened in the last 2 years, and uh, a lot of things that hurt me, like some bad situations with some people, and it really hurt me. And um, I felt that if I would give myself advice again to a 7-year-old Christopher Heck, I would say that just do what you love, you know. And I love tennis, so I'm sure I would have kept doing tennis, but I would have told myself to also do a little bit more stuff outside of tennis. I think I would have told myself, like to try and maybe really take up some other things outside of tennis and not, you're really isolated. And I felt that since I moved to Florida, it's been pretty tough because it's only been tennis, no school, just online. And if I would tell myself, I'd say, man, you gotta really just do stuff outside of tennis, and just surround yourself with people who aren't in that world, because I think we get caught up with only talking to people in that world, and you don't really get to be a, like a regular person, because you're always talking to people in that craft. It's like if you went to your job every day and you were only talking to your boss and your coworkers, I think that would be kind of weird. And I think that's kind of how it is with me in tennis. I don't have too many buddies outside of tennis. I do, but most of them are from tennis. And I think I would tell myself to really just surround yourself with people who aren't in that world, and to kind of escape when you're not on the court. When you're on the court, that's what you're doing. That's your job basically, and it has to be, to be successful. But to try and find an outlet, to try and find an escape off the court. And I think that's important. That's what a lot of kids like get burnt out with, because I feel like they don't have that escape. They don't have those kind of people that they can just, talk about life with, and it doesn't have to do anything with tennis.
Understand. Okay, good advice. Good advice for the little Chris. Chris, we came to the end of our conversation. I enjoyed very much. You know that I always enjoy talking to you, not only in this
Likewise.
podcast, but also whenever we meet each other outside. We always have good things to talk about. Uh,
Likewise, yeah.
so I wish you good luck. You still have a journey ahead of you. You will learn for sure many things, and I think tennis is a great platform to, as you said, to experience yourself and to learn about yourself, and that will create, no doubt about it, growth. You will
Yeah.
grow doing this, and yeah, I'm happy to see you growing up, getting better, improving.
Thank you. I appreciate that. No, I appreciate your time, and I always find it really refreshing to talk to you and get your insight on all sorts of topics about everything. So no, this was a lot of fun. I appreciate it.
Awesome, Chris. So we will have more conversations. And for now,
For sure.
I say bye and thank you again. And I'll see you soon.
Okay, Antonio. Thank you very much. See you soon.
See you soon. Take care, Chris. Big hug for
Take
you.
care. Likewise. Thank you.